Awesome. Let's get started. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining our webinar, Stop Drowning in Logs, How Tailored Log Management and Premier Threat Detection Keep You Afloat. My name is Victoria, and I'll be hosting your webinar today. Before we get started, I just want to go over a few housekeeping items for you. This session is being recorded. You will receive the recording within 24 hours post-event. Polls will be utilized throughout, so please be sure to only click your answer once or else your answer will disappear. Use the chat function for any questions or to be interactive with anyone else on this call. The more interactive, the better. And you all are automatically muted, but if you would like to ask your question live, feel free to raise your hand and we'll bring you right up on stage. All right, Stephen, passing it right over to you. Enjoy.
All right, thanks, Victoria. Thanks, everybody, for joining. My name is Stephen Rosenthal. I'm a director of product here at Critical Start. Excuse me for my voice. And take you through the webinar today. Please, if you have any questions, raise your hand, as Victoria mentioned. We'll be glad to answer those at the end of the presentation. And looking forward to chatting with everyone today. So things we're going to walk through the agenda is challenge not accepted. So more security logs, more complex threats, right? We'll take you through that. We want to make sure your logs work for you. So we're going to walk through how you do that, which is the best way, and what are some best practices around that. And the 3 steps to improve security, reduce risk, and cost optimization. We'll walk through that. And then at the end, like I said, we'll have time for some Q&A and some key takeaways. So let's go ahead and jump right into it with the first poll question. How would you rate your organization's visibility across user, cloud, applications, and network infrastructure? A, we have full visibility. B, we have some visibility. C, we have little to no visibility. Or D, you just don't know. I will tell you there's no right or wrong answer here. I have talked to many prospects and customers over the years, and we have all those answers across our customer base. Give it a second for those polls to come in. And if they don't, all right. So hopefully you guys have had a chance to answer that. Let's see. So we'd see a couple of people that have some visibility. So you have some idea of what's going on within your user base, your cloud-based applications, et cetera. There might be some that have little to no visibility. So there are some logs that are coming out of these applications or your firewalls, and maybe they're going nowhere. So we want to walk through that. So thanks for everyone for taking time to do the poll. We have another one later on, but in the meantime, we'll jump right in. So what are the ongoing challenges of log overload and reduced visibility and increased threat detection complexity? Everyone in their time has felt overwhelmed by logs. We get a lot of logs depending on how noisy the applications are, how noisy whatever SaaS application you might be running, and the difficulty in finding that important information needed to identify and respond to threats. So this could be a needle in a haystack, and you feel very overwhelmed that getting all this data. I mean, look at the guy's picture here on the left-hand side of the screen. It's just like, oh my God, all these logs are coming in. What do I do with them? How do I get it? Struggling to connect the dots. So maybe I am getting these logs in, but how do I correlate the events across my IT infrastructure? I want to get that complete picture of something coming in from a user ID related, something coming in from a firewall. How do I connect the dots? I might get a message today or a message tomorrow that are very related, but if I'm not collecting that information, it's going to be very hard for me to connect those dots and do cross-correlation across the events that come in. And that's extremely important because threat actors are not just hitting one area of your IT infrastructure at a time. They might be hitting multiple areas. And to get that real understanding of what's going on, you have to have that visibility across it all. Strapped by high cost. We all are in a phase of our economy right now where cost is extremely important. How do I manage that and still get that effective security monitoring? I want to make sure I'm getting the greatest threat-centric value out of the costs that I'm paying. So that's extremely important, and we'll take you through that and make sure that you can focus on what's important, and on the flip side, not focus on what's not important and potentially save some or even optimize some costs there. Need security expertise. This becomes extremely hard. We see it as part of our company. How do we fill those gaps to make sure that we don't miss a threat that is coming in? So yes, we're taking in the logs. Maybe we're even doing some cross-correlation, but what if nobody is there to take a look at that? Security expertise is a hard field to bring on new resources. I think it's getting a little bit better. We're seeing more and more, more and more people going into that cybersecurity field. I can tell you that my college student is, my son is going into that field, taken after his own father. And that helpful, right? It's just getting more and more people within that field. And you're blinded by security gaps. So if you don't have these things available to you, you're going to be blinded. And one thing you don't want to do is be blinded by any of these gaps that are coming in. You want a set of eyes on the logs that are coming in, be it your eyes, Critical Start SOC, that's available 7x24, their eyes on this, but somebody has to have their eyes and make sure that everything is visual to the individuals that are focusing on this. All right, so what's worse than log overload, right? You can get in a ton of logs, and again, as we just discussed, make sure they're valuable, make sure people are reviewing them. But what about those rogue logs, right? Logs that are not going anywhere. You could have a EDR system or an endpoint detection. What about those logs that are outside the endpoint? We always suggest if you're going to put something out there, if you're going to have one level of security, let's do the endpoint. Let's try to stop those threat actors from even coming into the environment. But we all know that threat actors have their ways of getting beyond the endpoint. So if you're not taking those logs in of anything beyond the endpoint, you're missing the opportunity to catch those threat actors that are coming in. So you might not even know what logs are out there. And the other thing is logs might not be prioritized. There are logs that have greater threat-centric value than others. How do I know which logs to collect? How do I know which logs to prioritize if I have to make decisions around which log sources I'm ingesting? Right. So again, we want to make sure that we're bringing all these logs in that are outside of the endpoint. Our Manage XDR product allows you to do that. So it's a log collection platform. We manage it 100% for you, and it has the threat detection capabilities that all of our MDR platforms have. So in case you are going to have logs that are outside of your endpoint, a lot of organizations are just catching those endpoint logs and missing those logs that are coming from your SaaS applications, that are coming from any other application or user ID from Okta or other applications that are giving you great threat-centric value that you want to collect. So ingesting all that security relevant log sources is obviously going to give you that greater visibility and obviously a measurable, stronger security. Through simplified log source government, we're going to simplify what's coming in because we provide that platform for you. You don't have to go out and procure a separate SIEM. This is the log collection platform. And the threat detection and response capabilities that we provide, again, with that SOC that has their eyes on the logs alerts that are coming in, and they're there 7x24x365. It is always staffed. There's always somebody, a physical individual that is within our SOC to take a look at these logs. Extremely important. I can't stress this enough, that endpoint is very important. If you were only going to get one, let's get that. But what if your house, what if I just put locks on the door? Well, that's great. That's going to prevent somebody from getting in. But what if somebody breaks a window and gets into your house? Well, now I hope I have a security system that can also track if the glass broke or if I'm getting any movement around the house. So it gives you that other layer of protection. You want layers of protection to provide the greatest security value that you can get, right? That umbrella. So again, we're taking in these logs. How do we make them work for you? With this slide, what I want to point out is that these are the 5 areas that we manage for you as part of Manage XDR. We handle all the licensing. You do not have to go out and procure a SIEM. We handle the licensing. We handle the configuration, the deployment of that log collection platform. Everything is managed for you. We also manage the content. So what I mean by that is your logs are going to come into this platform, but without detections, there's no way that a platform can alert on the logs that are coming in. So we have a security engineering team that develops content for the log sources that are coming into our platform. That allows us to alert if we see a threat actor coming into the environment that is a known bad occurrence. We also offer what we call a trusted behavior registry. You'll hear us call that our TBR. And what that does, it's a database of known false positives. That allows us and you to significantly reduce the number of alerts that are coming in based on the information that we've gathered over the years of being in business, that we know this is a false positive. We know that this alert is okay and it's being triggered by something that's really not a threat actor, that we know that the application or whatever is just picking that up as a known bad, but it's really a known false positive. And we can take care of that immediately and significantly reduce the number of alerts that are coming in. Also, a SIEM is only as good as the upkeep of that SIEM. You can't just set it and forget it. And a lot of companies do that. So they'll implement a SIEM, they'll start ingesting the log files into the SIEM, and they won't touch it, not just for months, but maybe a year, maybe longer. Things change in your environment very often. And if you don't keep up with that, what if you get a new application in and you're not ingesting those log sources into that SIEM? What if something changes? We all know certain applications from certain vendors change things often. The APIs change. How the logs are being collected changes. The schema that a log source is coming in with change. If we're not keeping an eye on that, those log sources will not get ingested. We have another way of calling that. We call that zero log ingest, meaning nothing is coming in to our platform from that log source. We alert on that. We take care of that with your help sometimes. That way, again, we make sure that you have full coverage across your entire platform. And threat monitoring. We're always looking and updating our content as well as threats that are coming in from the outside. So we're always looking if there's a threat out there. Log4j is something that everyone's familiar with. We knew that was coming in. Once we knew that was coming in, we wrote detections for it, and we started working with our customers. We're always making sure that we're on top of whatever is coming in, and we make sure that we have detections available for that. So full management from the licensing to the configuration, managing your content, which is extremely important, managing that operational monitoring of that. So again, in case something goes down, we know about it, and all that threat monitoring that we have for that. Let's get into how do we know what's important. What we see on the screen now is just a bunch of bubbles with log sources. The red bubbles, the purple bubbles, the blue bubbles, everything is kind of just all over the place. How do we know what to take in? What if I have a budget that I have to meet and I can only take in certain log sources? Well, what we do is we work with you to determine your primary, secondary, and tertiary log sources. So if you look at this, what we like to call internally as the bubble chart, wonder why. On the left-hand side, on the red dots or the red bubbles, those are what we want to make sure that you are ingesting into the log collection platform. Be it Manage XDR, be it your SIEM platform, you want to make sure you're taking in the firewall threats, all of your identity and authorization logs, your single sign-on and your MFA. Email security is interesting. That used to be as a secondary. About 6 months, maybe even a year ago, we moved that to primary because, as I'm sure everybody is aware, threat actors are trying to get in through email. There's a lot of emails that are sent that are spam, that are threats that if somebody clicks on a link, it allows the threat actor to get into your environment. We quickly moved email security to be a primary log source. VPN, EPP, et cetera, cloud security, those are all the ones that we 100% want to make sure that we're taking in. Now what happens, we get to make some choices. Ideally, if we can take them all in, let's take all of your primary, secondary, and tertiary log sources in. But 100% we want to take the primary in. Then let's focus on your secondary, your WAF, your web servers, your routers, your switches, etc. We want to make sure those are coming in. Those have a lot of security value that we want to take in that allow us to do some cross-correlation. If you look to the far right, those are your tertiary log sources. Firewall traffic versus firewall threat that you see on our primary. The database, the physical security, your IoT logs. If you look, a lot of these things on the right-hand side don't provide us with a lot of security-centric value to them, cybersecurity-centric value. What they do provide sometimes is physical security. Sometimes it's required for compliance reasons. So if we had to make a choice, we would leave these out. If we don't have to make that choice, or if you need them for compliance reasons, then we're going to suggest you take them into the platform. Again, they don't provide us as much security-centric value, but they could provide you as the customer value to what you need to provide that full umbrella over your security platform. So we don't say, no, don't take in DNS, don't take in the firewall traffic. Absolutely, if we can. Firewall traffic, for one thing, is very noisy. So it's going to take in quite a few logs. And if that's okay, that's fine. But what we have found is some of the platforms charge by ingest. We do not. Our Managed XDR platform does not charge by ingest. So it's not as difficult to make these choices when working with the Managed XDR platform. When working with a third-party SIEM, you might have to make those decisions based on ingest cost and what your budget is. Excuse me. All right. Another poll. How are you currently managing and storing log source data? Are you working with a third-party SIEM? Do you have just an in-house program that you're collecting them maybe in an S3 bucket or not? Or again, you don't know. Again, no wrong answer. We have customers that span all across all of these. Hopefully we don't have any that don't know if they're working with us, and we hopefully don't have any that we're not at this point. But when they come to us, these are the answers that we get. So a lot of people are saying, they have a third-party SIEM. That's great. If you have a SIEM, we can work with you on what to ingest into that SIEM. If you don't have a SIEM, look at our Managed XDR platform. Again, we provide the licensing, we do all the management, the setup, the configuration. Everything is done for you when you come online. We also provide a managed SIEM offering, so we would manage that third-party SIEM for you. So there is the option there. And if you decide to take a meeting with us, which I hope you do, we can walk you through that and help you determine which is the better platform to go with for your environment. So we're seeing answers across all of these. Luckily, I'm not seeing any that say, I don't know. Good thing you guys know. And I don't see any that we're not. So that's great. Appreciate everyone's responses. But, third party between in-house program is probably the most common. All right, improve security, reduce risk, and cost optimization. Let's go into that. log source management for optimized security outcome. So tailored log management plus performance, availability, capacity monitoring, et cetera. This is going back to what I just talked about a few slides ago, the log source management. How do we know what to take in? We have a set of best practices that primary, secondary, and tertiary log sources that we work with you to determine what you want to take in. Also, once we start taking in these log sources, we go through a tuning phase. So when we first implement or ingest a log source, we pretty much leave that wide open. So all the logs are going to come in. The number of logs, the number of alerts is going to be very high. At that point, we're not in what we call a production mode. We're still in a tuning mode. We won't miss any of those high alerts. Those will still get taken care of, but we're not alerting on all of high, medium, and lows like we would normally do during tuning. So we want to work with you tuning out the known false positives within your environment, bouncing those against our TBR, if you remember what that means, our trusted behavior registry. So the number of alerts will eventually go down. Offload costly log storage and comply with regulations. So our Manage XDR platform, we can do log retention that's 100% hot storage. We default by 30 days. Most of our customers need at least a year or 18 months. Listen, log storage is not as expensive as it used to be. So we suggest to customers to have at least a year. Some, for compliance reasons, go out to 18 months, but that stays in hot storage. We do not move that to cold storage. So you always have that ability to search and have that visualization capability because you potentially need that for forensic investigation. It's right there for you. You don't have to call us and say, hey, can you rehydrate these log sources so we can look at them? They're going to be there for you. If you need them beyond that year, 18 months, what we suggest is to then offload your logs into your own cold storage. So if you have an S3 bucket, you can move those into that. And then those are available for you as many years as you need for compliance reasons. Automated log collections. So you improve log source visibility, resulting in faster detection and response to threats. So we're going to automatically take in those logs. Once they're set up, everything will come in. They come in through our platform. They come into our core platform, so the Critical Start platform. You have access to these. There's full dashboard capabilities, everything you need within our core platform to manage that environment. And as I was talking to you about unified platform, there's a screenshot of that. But what that allows you to do is reduce tool sprawl because everything's coming into that single pane of glass. So you can look in there. We have a lot of dashboard capabilities to show you how your team is doing, how our team is doing based on our responses, how your team is doing based on the responses. It's not meant to get anybody in trouble, but if you see an individual that is overworked versus another one, you might be able to switch some workloads around to make sure one individual isn't overworked versus another individual. Excuse me. Again, that single pane of glass, our platform, which you'll hear us called Core, or the Critical Start platform. These are some screenshots from there. We have a cyber risk dashboard that shows you how many alerts have come in. We also have what's called a rolling mean time to respond, if you look on the bottom right. So how quickly are we responding to alerts? How quickly are we closing alerts? We do, as a company, Critical Start has SLAs around our response time. We have a 10-minute SLA to respond to critical alerts. So keep that in mind if you're looking at different companies, not just an SLO, but does a company have an SLA to respond to these alerts? Extremely important. The quicker we get in there, the quicker we can act upon and getting those threats out of your environment. So if you look at the Venn diagram getting complete, we have the Premier MDR defense. So we mitigate organizational risk for a more resilient security infrastructure. And how do we do that? I talked about our SOC that's available to you 24/7 by 365. We also have a mobile SOC. So you can walk around around on a soccer field on a Saturday with your kids and get whatever you need out of the platform right on your phone. That's available both on the iOS platform and on other platforms that are out there if you use other ones, Android. Reduce the number of attack surfaces with visibility. So we're going to always look for security coverage gaps. We're going to take reports against your environment that'll say, bounce those off against those primary and secondary log sources that I showed you on the bubble chart. Say, you know what? Here's all the ones that you have covered, but here are all the log sources within primary that you don't have covered. Do you have Okta that we might not be taking in that log source for whatever reason? Let's close that gap. Let's make sure all those gaps are closed, because that's the quickest and easiest way to prevent those threat actors from coming in. Ensure consistent MDR coverage with log health monitoring. I talked about those zero log ingests. You will be able to see within our platform, there's a widget that shows you if a log source has gone down for whatever reason. We will alert you on that. Support will reach out to you, but sometimes we will need your help in fixing that. If it's something that we can help, if it's on our side, we will 100% take care of that. But sometimes we need you to reboot something, or something changed, or a network change, or an IP address change. We'll work with you on getting that fixed, but the log source is only as good as us receiving them. Always looking at the attack coverage across the MITRE ATT&CK Framework. There's a screen within our platform that will show you how your coverage is against those MITRE ATT&CK Framework, and we can make suggestions on how to get greater coverage across that platform. And I already talked about those guaranteed SLAs, but I think it's important to mention again, make sure you have an SLA around that with penalties against the company if they miss it. We get a penalty against us if we miss our SLA. So that's important. All these go into the improved security. We reduce the risk, and we're always looking out for cost optimization. We want to make sure you're getting your greatest value for each dollar that you're spending on security. This slide is just an overview of how we manage your environment. So if you start on the left-hand side, we're going to work with you on initial log collection and configuration. We have an implementation team and an onboarding team. You get assigned a project manager to work with you throughout that onboarding process. You have implementation engineers that work with you during that onboarding process. They'll configure, make sure you're getting those log source prioritizations in there, deploy it, and tune the content. So once we get everything deployed and ingesting, we go through a tuning phase that usually takes a few weeks. Then we move into what we call production or run state. We're always looking at health monitoring. We provide L1 and L2 triage and response for hardware that's in your environment. So like a Cisco firewall, you can call our support department. We're always there to give you advice. What do we have on our roadmap? What do you guys have on your roadmap? It's extremely important to partner and make sure that we're working together for you to know what's changing within our environment, what we need to know what's changing in your environment. In the platform management, we're always coming out with new features and functionality, making sure you know how to use that, and making sure that you're aware of it as well. All right, last but not least, this is overall what we deliver as part of our managed offering, be it managed XDR, which is the platform that we own the license, that we deploy and we manage 100% for you, or third-party SIEM, where you own the license, but we are still able to manage it. So all the administration, I'm not going to read every bullet point here, but we fully administer it for you. Everything from the alert baselining, we plan and deploy it for you. Customizing and configuration, we optimize it. We will develop up to 5 customized detections per year of your contract. So if you have a specific application that is homegrown, or you have a specific firewall for whatever reason we don't support, it's not a professional services engagement. We don't need a big statement of work. That's part of the offering. We will develop and work with you and develop that custom content for you. Again, the threat detection and response, our SOC, mobile SOC, very important. don't have to be in front of your laptop or your computer to log into our platform to see what's going on. It will be available to you on the mobile SOC. Continual risk reduction and cost optimization, as I talked about. We're always working with you, updating the playbooks. Playbooks are how you want us to react or act upon a specific alert. We get curated threat intelligence feeds, so we always know what's going on in the world. And we're always working with you on getting that greatest value out of every dollar spent within your security platform. All right, last but not least, extremely important poll question. Would you like to talk with us? Of course you do. Hopefully everyone's selecting yes. We can set up a meeting and go into a lot more detail about everything that I talked to you about today. All right, that comes to the end of the presentation today. Why don't we open it up for Q&A? Victoria, has anybody asked a question or posted anything?
We do have a couple of questions. One of them is, should I only log security-related log, or what about logs I need for compliance reasons?
Great question. And we talked about a little bit about that on a couple of slides ago, but yes, so it's going to be based sometimes on your budget and sometimes what you need. We always want to take those security related logs in. That's going to be your primary, secondary, and tertiary log sources. But if you have compliance reasons that you need to collect badge readers, is a great example. We have companies that have, you need to badge into the building. I need to know who's going in there. I need to make sure these logs are being saved over a period of time. You can do that within our Manage XDR platform. It'll be a log source that you're ingesting. We will not alert on it because it's not a security related, but 100% yes, if you need it, you should look at what log sources we need to ingest for compliance, take into account the cost optimization, and work with you to determine if that makes sense for you or not. Great question.
Great. Someone asked, would love to hear more about how Critical Start can assist during a security incident.
Yeah, we have a team that is a response team that you can engage with if something like that happens. If you are a current customer, typically we will have that included within your offering, that you can reach out and open a support ticket, reach out to your customer success manager, and make sure you get in touch with that team that works with you and works with you all through that process and helps you get back online. So absolutely, we do have that available as a service.
Great.
What next do we have? Anything else?
Yeah. What is Critical Start's retention policy for logs?
So within our Managed XDR platform I talked about, by default, it's 30 days that comes with the offering. I'll tell you, most customers need longer retention policies. So we can take that out, honestly, as long as you need it. At some point, it becomes a little cost prohibitive. You'd want to move that into cold storage. The benefit of keeping it in with our retention is that it's hot. So if you do have a breach, it's in hot storage and you can get at those logs for investigative purposes right away. For our other sources, those logs stay within our environment for as long as you need them. There's not a set retention policy there, but we tend eventually want to move those off into your own S3 bucket or whatever your cold storage option is, because we always want them to be with you and not necessarily stay with us. It just makes it for a cleaner, what happens if you have it in 7 years and you need them? You just don't know where you might be in 7 years. It just makes it a lot more sense to be within your environment, probably after about 18 months. So up to 18 months, keep it with us, hot storage. After 18 months, we generally want to move that to one of your cold storage options. And we can help you do that.
Great. And last question, how do I balance what logs I should ingest?
Couple of things you want to bounce that off against. And this goes back to our primary, secondary, and tertiary log sources. You're going to balance it up against, unfortunately, budgets, right? We all have to work within our budgets. We have to work within budgets at home. We have to work within budgets within our companies. You have a specific amount of money that your CISO can spend. Let's make sure you're getting the greatest threat-centric value out of the log sources that we're coming into. Our teams will help you determine what's best for your environment. The question that somebody asked a couple of questions ago, should I take in non-security log sources? That's where we're going to look at first, where we're going to optimize spend. Maybe we can not take those in. Maybe we can just help you direct those right to cold storage. There's options. There's options within certain platforms that have different tiers of storage or data that we can optimize spend by taking it in different ways. So different platforms have different storage tiers or different data tiers that can potentially save and optimize money. So let's walk through that. But the simple answer is you always want to take in those primary log sources. The other ones, let's discuss, see what room you have available to you within the budget, and we'll kind of work from there.
Great.
Anything else?
No, that were all the questions. Thank you guys so much. Thank you everyone for joining us today. The recording will be available within 24 hours, so be on the lookout for that. And we hope to speak with you all soon. Thank you so much for joining, and thank you, Stephen, for a great presentation.
Absolutely. Thanks, everybody.